Hello and welcome to our review of 10 new rosters for this upcoming RLCS season. This is the Haters Edition. This is the critiquers, the ones who see flaws in these upcoming teams. Now, if you're interested in a more positive, optimistic take, I have already published that video, so please go back and watch the latest video on this channel. But this one, we're talking about the exact same teams as the Optimist Edition, but now we're taking a negative light on them. So let's have some fun. Now, let me first say, this isn't really my natural thing. I'm not really a hater. It's not really in my spirit. But for the sake of doing this video, we are going to be negative about these teams. So hang with me here. Falcons, Drali, Kalirs, and Rawas. Well, they've replaced their most consistent player, TRK, with one that had consistency issues last year, Drali. So this team is likely to become more inconsistent and have issues playing at a high level every single time that they are at a high level competition. So as being a hater, I expect this team to be good on their good days and bad on their bad days. Maybe they don't get top 8s when they're playing bad because the consistency isn't there and TRK can't drag them out. So that's my hater take on Falcons. Let me know what you think. Shopify Rebellion, First Killer Kofor LJ. Well, Chronic wasn't really the main issue with the Ultimates team. Keep in mind that was First Killer LJ Chronic. Their inability to continue playing at their best on the second and third day of these LAN tournaments was. For example, day one of the tournament, Ultimates, two-thirds of this roster, would go and play lights out, beat Karmine Corps, beat a lot of the best teams, even beat NRG and some of these, beat a bunch of other really talented teams. So they showed that they could peak over these teams. But then on day 2 and day 3 of these tournaments, the results just went way downhill. So to me, Chronic wasn't the issue. It was more coaching playstyle adjustments was probably the issue, because these teams this roster literally proved that they could beat the other best teams in the world on their good day. And so consistency was their enemy, not Chronic. And by replacing Chronic with Kofor, they're kind of taking a gamble on, is Kofor going to be a better chemistry fit? Are they going to perform better over the long term? So, I'm a little bit cautious about this roster and getting overly excited. There's a lot of hype about them right now. That's my hater take about them. GK, apparently Jack, Joyo, and Seiko. All of these players are on the back end of their career and they're aging out of the esport, meaning they're in their young 20s, which is kind of a ridiculous thing to say. But they won't have the peak to beat the best teams in EU or the world. Their mechanical peaks are behind them. And mechanics are extremely important in this day and age. Obviously there's still just the basics, open nets, passing plays, kickoffs, like the basics, right? But the defense has gotten so good at this current level in RLCS that some amount of offensive creativity is required. And that's why teams like NRG, Falcons, Karmine Corps last season, really creative offense, were able to score in situations that other teams weren't anticipating them to score in. So this team, geriatric in RLCS ages. That's my negative take on them, is they are too old to be good, which is not a good take. But, well, there's some truth to it, but I don't love saying that out loud. Twisted Minds, Monkey Moon, Nobu, and TRK. Here's an interesting angle, I think. Taking Monkey Moon, who kind of flopped in EU last year based on expectations, over another player from MENA that's up and coming, like a Ghazi, Nush, Dr. Known. There's a bunch of other players that are at a very high level caliber. Really anyone from Rock, that roster last year would have been an interesting take, will be a massive mistake, because basically you're taking two players. Well, I guess Nobu commented in English last year, but TRK didn't, and so he's going to be learning. And so now, language is important. for a fast-paced game like this. So hopefully they're able to iron out those issues. But being able to quickly and effectively communicate exactly what's happening and what you're doing to your teammates in a game like this is really important. And I think the fact that they're comping in a second language for all three players is not super ideal. Hopefully that doesn't come across in the wrong way. It's more so, I think that, sorry, there's a little flying around this room. They're Nobu, TRK, maybe they should have picked up someone from Mina instead of picking up Monkey Moon. So this will be an interesting experiment. That's the hater take. Furia lost Swift and Yan. Obviously, Drafinho got replaced by Swift for this season. Based on their results, the hater take is they should have just destroyed this whole roster and started over, either with Lost or with Yan, probably. But keeping 2/3 of this roster that had bad results and hoping that things are going to get way better by swapping out one player who wasn't even really that problematic during the season. I don't know. This team probably should have just gone 3 separate ways and let Drafinho lead a team, let Yan lead a team, and let Lost win a team, and then see which one of those teams rises to the top to be the best representative Sam when it comes to these other events. So that's maybe a hot take on Furia. Exotic, Stizzy, Zen. Let's run it back, but this time we'll have less world champions, right? I didn't phrase it correctly there, but this is, they replaced they replaced Monkey Moon with Stizzy. And while Stizzy is kind of up and coming, obviously Monkey Moon is a known quantity. He's a known performer. If anyone should have been on the hot seat, probably Exotic, but it seems like Exotic and Zen have a really good relationship and they like working together and playing together. So that seems to be why they stuck. Monkey moved on to Twisted Minds, as we covered previously here. But I just thought this was a funny way of looking at it, where it's like this team of world champions from different years and rosters, let's take some of the world champions out and then assume it's going to get better, right? So, this is kind of a risky take, but in a lot of ways, I actually kind of like Vitality for thinking outside of the world champion box. Gentlemates Alpine, Archie, Nas, and Oski. 3 popular players, or what I would call fan favorite players, isn't a super team, and that seems to be the requirement to win in EU and get the best placements right now. So, while we expect this team to do well, I think this team is propped up a little bit because people like me like the personality of all 3 of these players. Archie, Nas, and Oski are all very likable players. Like, their personality and charisma is high. Obviously, they're all good at the game too. But I don't know if this team, we need to see if they have enough chemistry over the year to play together and if they can come together. And it's not really super team status. Like, all of these guys are top players, but they're not in that top 5 list of best players in RLCS, and it seems to win the best region, which is EU, arguably. Well, it's really not even arguable, but that's a whole separate thing. EU is clearly the best region, and to win it and to do well in it, you need to have an elite player, and I don't know if any of these 3 players are counting as elite right now. Space Station Gaming, Chronic, Diaz, and Reveal. Is this perhaps maybe the most random top roster that we're looking at? Like, they kind of took a couple pieces of other teams and all stuck them together. So my question here is, have they even tested if these guys play well together? Now, the obvious answer to that is yes. Of course, they're scrimming together and, they've got to have some amount of chemistry, but it kind of feels like this team got announced early and they just kind of decided that they were going to figure it out. Or maybe the scrims went well. I don't know. I haven't been hearing any leaks or any information about that. To be honest, I'm pretty excited about this team, but my hater take is like, wow, what a random group of people, right? Like, did they just throw darts at a board of who was available? Like, did they not try out some of the other players from the top rosters in NA that were floating around? Like, I'm thinking Wavy, maybe a Chronic Wavy Reveal would be an interesting team. I don't know. Just kind of a interesting take. No hate to Diaz, obviously. Ninjas and Pajamas. This is confirmed. Sorry, I left the question mark in here on accident. So this is confirmed. CRR, Jorius, and Oli. Was CRR really the best talent that Jorius and Oli could find in EU? They'll struggle to find top 8s. So that's a hater take, right? Like, this team, CRR wasn't able to make top 4 for Worlds or top 5 for Worlds and in NA. So now he's going to go to EU, which is certainly a deeper bracket. Sorry, this little fly is really bothering me. And all of a sudden, he's supposed to get top 4 finishes in a more competitive region. Now, obviously, Jorius and Oli are probably better at the game than Frosty and Diaz, or Diaz and Raze Bowl earlier in that season. But I think it's still a little bit of a question mark. I think he's on a prove it year. I think he's going to be constantly looked at as, is CRR playing up to his teammates' level, which is not super fair because we should be looking at it saying who's playing at elite level and who's not. But I think CRR is going to be measured against his teammates for his own success, which is kind of a tricky spot to be, because everything he does to help his teammates is going to make his teammates look better, and it won't always make him look more elite, even if he's facilitating the plays. So we're going to have to use some discernment. Gen.g, Justin, Magic Bear, and Rise. And keep in mind, they got rid of Cheese. They brought in Rise. So Rise over Cheese is an upgrade, at least on paper. But will the team chemistry be there to find new peaks? Now, this was a team that was able to find some really high peaks, winning some of the opens last season. So this is a team that also proved that they had the ability to be the best team in NA on their given day. And, Rise is extremely consistent, but I don't know if he has a peak that's higher than Cheese does. Maybe that's a controversial take. I think Rise certainly has a higher floor, and he also has significantly better LAN experience and results than Magic Bear and Cheese. Justin obviously has great LAN results. If you look earlier in his career, then he kind of was in a bit of a funk with the Shopify Rebellion roster he was on, where they weren't really getting LANs or getting good results at LANs. So now, he's kind of on the back end of his career. I don't know how many more years he's planning on playing or how many more seasons he wants to play. So this to me is kind of an interesting take. Justin, Magic Bear, Rise. It makes you wonder, like, maybe Chronic or Reveal would have been a better pickup than Rise for these guys. I don't know. But certainly an interesting take, and I will be watching. So that is my hater take on that. So let's be negative in this comment section. What do you think is going to go wrong for these rosters? Or if I didn't list a roster like Carmine Core on this one, like, do you think that was a tragic mistake that they picked up Juicy and let Drawley walk out the door for more money? Which is, I think, is what the storyline is currently. What is the, what are your hater takes? What do you want to critique before the season starts? Is there anything you want to highlight and say, I bet this is going to happen? And let's keep, things nice, but we can be critical in this comment section. Thank you so much for the support. If you need a pick-me-up after watching all this negativity or reading negative comments, I made an Optimist edition of this exact same roster list, and it's on the channel, so please check that out. If you'd like to watch more RLCS content from me in the future, please consider subscribing and liking the video, so that way when I publish the videos, they come directly to you. Thank you so much for watching. RLCS, I swear, is getting a little bit closer every single day, and we're working our way there. So thanks for all the support in this off season. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.